Step by Step, What You've All Been Screaming For, Part 1, reading from AnnaVonReitz.com. There have been so many piteous outcries coming in from people who are totally confused or partially befuddled that I have once again faced the necessity of sitting down at my computer and step 1, sit down and look at your birth certificate and understand what it is and how it functions. It has two basic functions. First, it's an insurance indemnity receipt, which is required under the Lieber Code / Hague Conventions. They have to give you an indemnity receipt for the property they are stealing from you, essentially an insurance policy guaranteeing that your property won't be harmed as a result of their use of it. This makes you the subrogee, the insured party and priority creditor of your own estate holdings. This process of registration, as opposed to recording, creates a separate person named after your given trade name, yet owned and operated by a franchise of the municipal United States. The separate government of Washington, D.C. operated as an international city-state by the members of Congress. When you get your BC authenticated by the United States of America State Department, you find out for sure which federal corporation is issuing the birth certificate you have been issued. In most cases, it will be a state of state like the state of Washington, but in some cases it will be a federal department such as the Department of Defense. Second, the birth certificate is a bond. Literally, it is a bond issued against the value of the estate, or more recently, the public transmitting utility assets that belong to you. A bond is an IOU, a promise to pay under stipulated conditions. You have the certificate proving that you are the actual owner of the assets being bonded, but until and unless you claim your exemption from their system of things, the benefit of the bond goes to the state of state or department that is insuring your purloined property against loss or damage. Now notice a couple of other things about your birth certificate that prove that what I'm telling you is true. A, there are two prominent dates displayed on the certificate. One is your actual birthday. The other is the file date when the person, a corporate municipal franchise, was created and replaced you as the beneficiary of your own assets. So you, the living man or woman, have a birthday, and the corporate franchise person named after you has a birth date, which is always a few days or weeks after your birthday. In effect, the birth certificate records the death of your claim to own your estate and trade name and the birth of the federal person's claim upon your assets. You are always the holder in due course, the party having the first claim, first in line, first in time, to the trade name and estate. But if you don't claim it or know how to claim it, you're out of luck and disinherited. B, the birth certificate is signed by the registrar, an officer of the probate court, which proves that your estate was probated. The living American state national, for example, the Minnesotan named William Bales Jensen, was taken off the title of his natural estate, and his natural nationality and political status was changed to that of William Bales Jensen, styled as all capital letters, a federal municipal franchise corporation and citizen of the United States, that is, a citizen under the diversity clause of the old federal code, which allows corporations to be citizens. C, the birth certificate is issued on bond paper, giving you silent notice that the assets named on the face of the document, your unlawfully converted estate assets, including the copyright to your trade name, your land, your labor, everything you could ever own, has been seized upon and bonded by the organization issuing the certificate. D, the process of false probate just described results in the unlawful conversion of your name and estate assets, makes you a U.S. citizen instead of an American state national, removes you from the jurisdiction of the land, and deprives you of your constitutional protections, making you indebted and obligated to pay the bills of foreign corporations and otherwise place havoc with you and your entire country. E, this is done without your knowledge or consent, without your parents' knowledge or consent, and the people doing this to you are on your payroll, supposed to be rendering you good faith services the whole while, because you don't know that this is being done to you and that these false claims against you are being made. You have no opportunity to object to them, much less delve through it to rebut all these lies and claim your exemption and exercise your indemnity. Now a few further notes. For many years the vermin seized upon your given Christian trade name, just as you were taught to print it in the first grade with first name, middle name, last name, all written in upper and lower cases like John Michael Doe, first letters capitalized. Their federal franchise was structured as a Sesta KV estate trust operated under the same name, written in all capital letters, John Michael Doe, styled as all caps. Most recently, the vermin have tried to change their stripes, and instead of creating their fictional persons as Sesta KV estate trust, they have been creating public transmitting utility franchises named after you. How can you tell the difference? The estate trusts are all named with the full first, middle, and last names appearing in all capital letters, John Michael Doe, styled as all caps. The public transmitting utilities all appear with only a middle initial, but still in all capital letters, John M. Doe. Please note that any name in any style that uses only a middle initial is not a legal name. It is meaningless and void for lack of specificity. Was that John Michael Doe, or John Mark Doe, or John Marvin Doe, or John Maxwell Doe, or? You can always call the vermin on that, because of lack of specificity destroys the existence of any jurisdiction, actual or fictional. A claim against such a named entity can only stand if you just assume it's your name and accept the charges without objection. This technicality is not the essence of the problem nor your strongest defense. This is just to point out that what they are doing is blatantly, obviously, on the face of it illegal, and you don't need any rocket science to prove that it is, nor any other cause to object. If you raise this objection and they proceed against you, they are dead meat on appeal. A fact that may not be known to you, but which is written in stone above their heads. If you don't properly identify the parties, you have no claim. Now that you know what the birth certificate is and what its functions are, it will make more sense to you that you need to get it verified as a genuine document, and this is where the process of authentication comes in. Why authentication and why not an apostille or a certification? Countries that are signers on the Hague Conventions use apostilles to verify genuine documents passing between themselves. Countries that are not part of the Hague Conventions use authentication for the same purpose. Certification is an in-house domestic equivalent of a guarantee and isn't strong enough for international use. The United States of America never signed the Hague Conventions. The United States did. As a result, documents issued by or pertaining to the United States of America and its international functions have to be authenticated, while documents issued by or pertaining to the United States have to be apostilled. Both processes serve the same purpose of verifying the record and the paper. When you act as an American state national, you're acting under the auspices of the United States of America. So when you're ready to reclaim your assets and exercise your exemptions, you use documents that are authenticated. If you were an actual federal employee or dependent and acting under the auspices of the United States, incorporated as a franchise of the municipal government or as a citizen of the territorial government, either one, you would use documents that are apostilled. All that is the reason why you go through the turkey trot of getting your records officially verified and why you need to do this correctly. I recommend getting at least 2, if not 3 copies of your birth certificate ordered from the vital statistics people. Keep 1 and send 2 to the Secretary of State and ask for an authentication to do business in Indonesia, a non-Hague Convention country. They will add a cover sheet, signature, and seal guaranteeing that the attached birth certificate is genuine. Next, take the state authenticated documents and send them to the United States of America Secretary of State's office in D.C. and request the same service, authentication of the BC for use in Indonesia. Each authentication requires a small fee. At the end of the day, you get back a 3-page document, the original birth certificate you got from Vital Statistics, the State Secretary of State's cover page, and on top of that, a yellow heavy-weighted cover page from the USA Secretary of State's office. The yellow page verifies the authenticity of the State Secretary of State's guarantee, and it tells you explicitly which federal entity, state of state, franchise, or department issued the indemnity receipt and is responsible for guaranteeing your exemption from all this rot. Now, finally, you have proof in your hand of what has been done to you and who did it, and who's liable for it. You have the lawnmower, and now all you need is the gas. See this article and also part 2 of this article and over 700 others on Anna's website at annavonreitz.com, and find the PayPal button. Give generously for the support of this work. Step-by-step part 2, the gas, reading from annavonreitz.com. So you now know what the birth certificate is and how it functions and why you authenticate it. What else do you need to reclaim your identity and your holder and due course / subrogee / priority creditor status? You have to correct the omission that your parents made and record your common law copyright to your own name. The session laws of every state, federated or not, contain language guaranteeing your right to establish a common law copyright to your assumed name. Please note I said session laws, not statutes. Also note that the correct description of your upper and lowercase name, first, middle, last, as in Michael John Doe, is properly known as a trade name or a given name, and this style of name is known as a bicameral name. It is assumed in the sense that when you came into this world you didn't have a name and were given one, but there are other kinds of assumed names, including pen names and nom de guerre and corporate names too. The session laws include all these kinds of names under the blanket description, assumed names. The name your parents gave you, your given trade name, has to be reclaimed and copyrighted and permanently domiciled on the land and soil of the state where you were born, together with all styles, orders, forms, punctuation, variations, abbreviations, and other derivatives of your basic trade name. This is done by recording your claim and certificate of assumed name in a land recording office or a postal district or both. Please note that a recording is different from a registration. You record a deed because it references a land asset. People and their names are naturally land assets too, for dust thou art and to dust returneth. And so, of course, are other actual factual things such as rocks and trees and farm fields and houses and dogs and cats, all land assets. Now, I've shared examples of certificates of assumed names on my website that people can observe and use as templates to create their own documents simply by replacing the names, dates, addresses, etc. with their own. These examples cite the session laws of Alaska and Washington state simply because that's where they happen to be brought from. Other states have their own session laws regarding assumed names, which guarantee your common law copyright. So if you live in Minnesota or Florida or some other state, by all means consider spending an afternoon at the law library or hiring a paralegal to dig through and find the local session laws and cite that in addition to the Alaska and Washington state laws. That said, the doctrine of equal protection mandates that a protection provided in one state must be provided in all states of the Union, and if you absolutely cannot find the right session law for your state, you may rely on the citations provided from Washington and Alaska. Some land recording offices object and refuse to file any record that doesn't include the session law reference for their state. This is either guile or ignorance on the part of the clerks who don't know the difference between session laws and statutes, but no matter. You are not dependent on the land recording offices to record your claims. It's nice if you can get it on the public record that way, but not critical. You can use the post office to create a record of your claim by sending yourself a registered letter containing a wet ink original copy of the certificate of assumed name. This is called a record copy. When you receive the registered letter that you sent yourself, you don't open it. You tuck it away in a file folder along with your own file copy of the certificate of assumed name. If there's ever a question you're forced to go to court, you certify a black and white copy of the certificate from your file as true, correct, and complete, and sign off on this as the document custodian. Then take your unopened registered letter to court as proof. Wave it at the judge. If the judge has temerity enough to open your letter, which he won't, he has to certify the record copy on the record of the court upon your request, and that seals the doom of any claim against your claim. You can further back up your claim by placing a briefly stated public notice in the local newspaper or papers. Just a couple sentences will do. For example, the trade name William Henry Doe has been returned and reconveyed to its natural permanent domicile on the land and soil of New Hampshire effective March 2nd, 1950. Doe William Henry, fiduciary, in care of 4109 Fairfield Street, Oxford, Massachusetts 01540. Waive the newspaper clippings showing the dates of publication at the judge too. Please note that the examples of the certificate of assumed name that are provided on my website include a permanent standing claim of the writ of habeas corpus, which allows you to come in and commandeer their courts if they address you improperly. With your authenticated birth certificate and your recorded certificate of assumed name firmly in hand, you are now ready to mow the grass. Or maybe I should liken it to saying the magic words. I claim the writ of habeas corpus, allowing me to operate in this court while maintaining my true position and domicile on the land of these United States. I am the living subrogee and priority creditor of the defendant. I claim all exemptions and bonds related to this case contract number, and as an innocent third-party controlling interest, move the court to dismiss these allegations for failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. This is a fancy way of saying that any money owed by the defendant is owed to you, not them, and that they don't have the jurisdiction to make any claims favoring themselves or say jack diddly squat otherwise. This works in all cases regardless of what the case may be, so long as you've not murdered anyone, in which case the prosecutor stands for the injured party, or actually injured a living man or woman or their property. This works on all cases brought against you, including foreclosure cases, child custody cases, statutory crimes, traffic tickets, tax cases, anything bogus that doesn't actually involve a living injured party who is willing to stand up in court and accuse you of actual injury to them or their private property, and so long as you're not in fact a federal citizen. So there at last is your administrative process, which frees you from the dread of these liars and flim-flam artists. In fact, unless you're an actual federal citizen, I recommend that you just stay home and send the judge and court clerk a nice polite registered letter in lieu of appearing physically at all. Just take back black and white photocopies of your authenticated birth certificate, your certificate of assumed name, the mailing receipts, mark everything private and confidential, certify it as all true, complete, and correct as the document holder, and explain that you don't exist in their jurisdiction and don't acquiesce to their jurisdiction, and object to having their court misaddress you. Note that you're a holder in due course of your trade name and estate and all derivatives thereof, and request that they drop all charges and return the balance of any court bonds to you. The subrogee and priority creditor of the defendant at the address shown above, sincerely, blah blah. So long as you provide a polite answer, nobody can accuse you of being in contempt of court, and so long as you reply to a summons in proper character, there is no basis for issuing a warrant. And if by chance they ignore the facts and continue their prosecution, start thumping on the military authorities, especially the U.S. Army, which is supposed to be riding herd on the bar. Instead, they have been letting the bar ride herd on them. They have entrusted this function to provost marshals who are all members of the bar, so they all have foxes guarding the other foxes in the hen house at the same time, a situation that has to stop. Start banging your dishes on the floor like angry dogs and demand that the Army get up off of its complacent rump, read Title 4, then read Title 37, and realize the crimes that these disguised uniformed officers, conscripted doctors, are being forced to commit in hospitals throughout America, and then finally read their own field manuals. It's all there in black and white. We, the American states and people, are being subjected to vicious crimes, press ganging, identity theft, kidnapping, inland piracy, unlawful conversion, forced enslavement and conscription, mischaracterization of our nationality and political status, virulent fraud and racketeering, genocide on paper at the hands of the people on our payroll, by attorneys operating outside their jurisdiction, and by banks operating as crime syndicates on our shores. And the U.S. Army and Coast Guard, which are both specifically tasked to protect us from this, are all part of the problem. They have let the rat problem get totally out of control and failed to protect us and our actual borders. So given this overall deplorable circumstance, please tell me why we are paying billions upon billions of dollars in national security expenses. It's like paying for a fur coat and being given a do-it-yourself paper raincoat instead. But I digress. You now know exactly what's been done to you and how you need to reply to it. And if the bar members do anything but the right thing, you know how to complain about it. Time to mow the lawn, America, and do a darn good job. See this in 700 other articles on Anna's website at annavonreitz.com. Find the PayPal button and give generously.